Investigation into the mysterious death or disappearance of 11 scientists deepens. And now House Oversight Chair James Comer is worried something shady is happening. Listen.
It does appear that there's a high possibility that something sinister is taking place here. We've asked all those agencies, the Department of Energy, NASA, the Department of War, to all share information with us so that we can see if we can put it together and find any missing links to try to solve what's going on here, because it's very unlikely that this is a coincidence.
Wow. Former FBI special agent and Fox News contributor Nicole Parker joins me now. Nicole, that is quite a powerful statement from the Oversight Committee chair. He can't just say things willy-nilly, loosey-goosey. When he says something, it has an import. It has a power. So the fact that he said that tells you something. Do you think something sinister is going on? And if so, what?
You know, Todd, it's an excellent question. I think at this point it's just too soon to know. I myself find it very fascinating, as tragic as it is from the investigative perspective. It's fascinating to break down these 11 individuals, and that's exactly what I've done. I've done a substantial amount of research to see commonalities, things that were different. But I think, you know, looking at it, overarching thoughts is that there are 11 individuals. 5 of them went missing. 6 of them were dead. Of those 6, 2 of them were murdered. And I think it's important to note, for example, one of them was the individual, if you remember, the MIT plasma fusion research individual. He was found, you know, he was killed in his home in Massachusetts after the Brown University shooting. It was just a few days after. So it was the same individual that conducted the Brown University shootings and then later went on to kill this MIT plasma research individual. And so again, to think that that individual was linked necessarily to any of these other cases, I would say probably not. That's probably not related. Another individual that was murdered was an individual who was sitting on his porch in rural California and was shot on his porch at 6 a.m. Do I think that that's necessarily linked? I don't know that all of them are linked together, but I think what's important is to see that they may be individually linked to potential foreign intelligence services, espionage, things of that sort. But of the missing individuals, I think it's odd. None of them had their cell phones.
Yeah, exactly.
Who leaves their home in this day and age without a cell phone? 2 of them had guns on themselves. I think one of them, her cell phone actually was found and it was factory wiped. It was completely wiped clean. That's a very odd thing to see as an investigator. One of the individuals that I think is most alarming is she went hiking with her friends in the Angeles National Park and she suddenly vanished and disappeared. She was with 2 other individuals and they literally said she just disappeared. There was no sign or trace of her, no sign of a struggle. They did a substantial search for her. She just literally is gone. I think also the 34-year-old, that's a very young age. Her name was Amy Eskridge. And she herself, back in 2020, was on a YouTube interview and expressed concern for her life. And she said that she was concerned that, you know, she could be taken out. And so she had done research on anti-gravity. There's commonality in all of these individuals. They all had, you know, very substantial research experience, either with nuclear weapons, aerospace, you know, defense systems, advanced physics. And these are things that other countries, they don't want to see us succeed at.
Exactly, Nicole.
Were they trying to silence them to take them out? And that's what's important to know. We've got to get to the bottom of this and do a full investigation. The FBI, the Department of Energy, the Department of War, they are working together and they will do a full investigation and look at every single case. What is the age of the individual, the mental and health status of the individuals, and things of that sort? What were the relationships that they had? They will do full interviews. They will work with the local law enforcement because they have separate investigations for each of them. And so they'll take all of those cases, they'll put them together, and they'll start linking together patterns.
And I would just add one thing. NASA says it is now investigating because at least 4 of the individuals that you see on your screen were connected to NASA. And I would just add that in that group of agencies that you listed, all of this is connected. It does have some nexus to, let's call it generally military, and so we'll be curious to see if there is some foreign element involved here. Speaking of foreign elements, want to get your quick thoughts on this. An Iranian national accused of trafficking weapons on behalf of the regime, making millions in the process, made her first court appearance in federal court yesterday after officials arrested her at LAX. Attorney General Todd Blanche said, look, this woman's in the United States enjoying her life, but she was breaking the law with illegal weapons deals with Iranian adversaries. My question for you, Nicole, just how many more like her are living the American dream while also trying to support those who, at the end of the day, want death to America? About 30 seconds to you.
I don't know. We do not know who we have allowed into this country, and that to me is absolutely horrifying and despicable. This lady's living a life of luxury in Los Angeles with one of our strongest foreign adversaries. We're at war with Iran right now, and she is making millions and millions of dollars, brokering deals on behalf of the Iranian government with Sudan in this instance. She is charged with conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. She has been trafficking weapons, ammunition, drones. This is not okay. And she had over 62 contacts with an Iranian foreign intelligence contact within a 3-year period. And she's doing this all while she's living in Los Angeles, this fancy lifestyle, making millions of dollars. There was one contract that allegedly she brokered a $70 million deal for selling an Iranian-made drone to Sudan, and she herself pocketed around $7 million. Yeah. And she's living here, and that's disgusting. These individuals need to be found, and I am so proud of our DOJ for finding this and making these charges, and these people need to be held accountable. They need to be removed from our country.
And your answer concerns me. The fact that you say we just don't know how many individuals like this are in L.A., in California, throughout our country is very concerning, especially considering we are at a time of war. Nicole Parker, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Things are getting wild. Things are getting absolutely bonkers when it comes to these scientists, these researchers, more specifically when it involves plasma. A day after UFO researcher David Wilcock supposedly had taken himself out, or from what we're being told anyway,
that I have on Earth is a gift and a blessing, and I'm very grateful for that because, frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary.
We have a doctor, a scientist, coming out and saying that he may be in danger himself. This doctor right here, Dr. John Brandenburg, who says he's a plasma physicist, also works with fusion energy, advanced space propulsion, is an author, but also says he's a Mars and anti-gravity investigator. He was also, like David Wilcock, featured on Ancient Aliens, but as a plasma physicist. He made a post on X on April 20th to this @Minute of Zombie, and he said, "Do you understand, that we are dealing with a secret government program that has an entire department devoted to quote-unquote accidents, quote-unquote people taking themselves out, disappearances, insanity, and natural causes. To keep its secrets. I do, so spare me the weather balloons and sightings of Venus." Then directly after, he posts this photo of an alien holding Earth, and he says, "Dear friends, I have been told that I am in danger as an anti-gravity and Mars investigator, but I tell you now that all humanity is in danger, but so are the cover-up helpers. I urge a blanket amnesty for all in the cover-up who help end it. Take this amnesty while you still can." While we have this individual saying this on X, news is coming out saying that another individual has passed away that worked with NASA, and they're connecting this person to these other scientists. This article that I'm reading from says a NASA nuclear scientist passed away after a fiery crash in a rural Alabama town last year, which at the time caused suspicion among family members. The deceased was Joshua LeBlanc, 29, and he was driving his Tesla on July 22nd, 2025. Where the crash took place is very interesting. It took place in Huntsville, Alabama. This would be the third scientist connected to Huntsville, Alabama passing away. The first would be Amy Eskridge, who supposedly ended herself in Huntsville, Alabama, even though she sent out a text saying, "If you see any report that I ended myself, I most definitely did not." NASA scientist James Moffett and his entire family passed away in a plane crash on April 21st. They were also from Huntsville, Alabama. Matter of fact, his son Andrew was also a research engineer and scientist at the University of Alabama. His other son William also worked with technology as well. He worked with the information technology industry. Again, an entire family of researchers and scientists just wiped out in a plane crash, and they were from Huntsville, Alabama. Now we have this other individual, Joshua LeBlanc, where authorities are saying that his Tesla was found burned beyond recognition because apparently the vehicle collided with a guardrail, then several trees, before the vehicle burst into flames. It goes on to say that his body was also burned beyond recognition, and police confirmed his identity 3 days later after his body was transported to the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences. But get this, every time I talk about these scientists, even General McCaslin, they always leave items behind, and it's always their cell phones, their wallets, and their keys. Well, when it comes to Joshua LeBlanc, he did the same exact thing with his phone as well. This article goes on to say, at the time, his family told KLFY News that they feared he had been abducted and that he had left his phone and wallet at home at the time of his disappearance. This is the same exact story in all these cases, the phones being left behind. In the case of Melissa Casillas, when her phone was left behind and found, her phone was factory reset. Even though the crash happened in Huntsville, Alabama, apparently he's not from there, because this part of the article says police tracked LeBlanc down using the data from his Tesla Sentry mode and found that his vehicle sat at the airport in Huntsville for 4 hours on the morning of his passing. His family said his trip west was not part of his plan for the day and that uncharacteristically he was not communicating with them. Makes a lot of sense given the fact that for whatever odd reason he left his phone behind. He worked for NASA for about 5.5 years, and he was the team lead for NASA's Space Nuclear Propulsion, Instrumentation, and Control. He was also a team lead on NASA's demonstration rocket for Agile Cislunar Operation, or DRACO, a nuclear thermal propulsion engine. I mean, outside of the weirdness of him being at the airport for 4 hours, leaving behind his phone and wallet, driving a Tesla definitely allowed himself to being hacked, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if you're driving a Tesla or not, because pretty much any car with Bluetooth capabilities, technologies can be hacked. I guess Teslas are easier, but if you see my last video on Minutes of Horror, I had spoken about that program back in the day, the Cash for Clunkers, where they want you to turn in all your old vehicles without all these capabilities, the Bluetooth, the technologies that we see today. They'll go ahead and destroy those cars and they will give you cash. So you can go ahead and buy yourself a more tech-savvy car. Gee, I wonder why. You think of individuals like Michael Hastings, who is driving a Mercedes-Benz 250 Coupe, and there's a lot of theories saying that his car was hacked. While they wanted you to go ahead and turn in your old not-so-tech-savvy clunker to have it destroyed for cash, NASA has an entire parking lot filled with old-time cars that go back to the 80s, the 70s.
Documents go into great detail about how the government was trying to hack phones, trying to hack tablets, even smart TVs. But now when you dig deeper into the document, buried way deep in there, is about how the government was also looking into hacking vehicles. But it turns out hackers have already been doing it. There's a gadget out there right now that allows people to use a little remote control and get into your car undetected, even start your engine. And that's not all. There are a couple of hackers who've even been able to take over a car remotely while it's driving down the highway, and it's all caught on video this morning. The powerful demonstrations you need to see before you head out today. As this SUV drives down the highway, these two hackers are pulling off the unthinkable.
No matter what happens, don't panic.
Taking control of it wirelessly, even turning the wheel. Other hackers opening car doors with ease using this little gadget. Now, WikiLeaks claims the government was working on hacking cars too. The CIA was looking at infecting the vehicle control system used by modern cars and trucks. The purpose of such control is not specified. The new leaked documents quoting a meeting of the CIA's Embedded Devices branch. Potential mission areas include vehicle systems. But hackers have already done it. Wired magazine first exposing the danger in 2015.
So first we're going to turn the fan on them.
The driver of this Jeep Cherokee losing control.
Something just turned on all the fans and AC and stuff. I didn't do that.
These two hackers say they're controlling the car remotely, turning on the windshield wipers, turning on the radio.
The air conditioning is blasting, the music is blasting, and I can't see anything because of the windshield wiper fluid.
The hackers even controlling the steering, then going even further.
Kill the engine. So we're killing the engine right now.
I actually can't accelerate. It says 43 miles an hour, but I'm not going that fast.
Responding to that video, the maker of Jeep telling NBC News it's committed to the safety and security of our vehicles. We continue to take proactive steps to address cyber risks, adding the vulnerability discovered by those hackers has been eliminated. Jason Tanz, your Wired site director. Watching that video was frightening for me as a driver, and I'm sure a lot of people watching right now. How vulnerable are we?
Well, it is frightening because if these guys are doing it, you have to assume that other people are too. And one of the things we learned from the WikiLeaks dump was that, in fact, the CIA is looking into ways of doing this as well. So I think it's probably safe to assume that we're pretty vulnerable.
You are even vulnerable when you're away from your car. Hackers now cloning wireless key fobs remotely. I tried it out in December.
The door is completely locked, but when I hold this up to the door, look, I open the door right up, and that's not all. With this device, watch this. Yes, I just started the car. So now I'm a thief in your car.
So they have been showing us for quite some time that they can hack all types of cars, even remotely, where they can go ahead and take over the steering wheel, except those old-time muscle cars. Those old cars that had no technology in them to make life more convenient, because they always had to get us with convenience like Bluetooth, that were unfortunately destroyed. If somebody told you that LeBlanc's Tesla was hacked and it crashed into a tree, would that surprise you? Not me one bit. The thing I just still don't understand is the cell phone. Why did he leave his cell phone behind? If they were still planning on hacking his Tesla and having it crash somewhere, making it look like an accident, what was the importance of leaving the phone behind? The whole thing is weird, and it does feel like one giant psyop where the end goal is that it all leads to aliens. It feels like that movie where you watch all these scientists that know this big secret. They were all working on something and slowly they get bumped off. But over time, as these scientists are being bumped off, the secret still cannot be contained. It just feels like we're watching a Hollywood script play out. And at the end of the day, one of the major organizations involved in this whole thing is NASA. And NASA is the king, or one of the kings anyway, of psyops and lies. This great video comes from Trying This That, and I always thought Devon Island was the only Mars lookalike, but apparently she goes into a great breakdown of this other location.
This is for entertainment purposes only. Don't take anything that I say for the truth. I am a conspiracy theorist, and what I'm about to tell you are just lies. NASA wants you to believe they landed a car on a planet 140 million miles away. They want you to believe that a signal can travel through the void, past radiation belts, and back to Earth without dropping a bar. Atacama Desert is the most Mars-like place on Earth. It's the driest, non-polar place on the map. It's high altitude, high UV, and completely sterile. NASA doesn't even hide this. They openly conduct rover field tests in the Atacama because the soil chemistry is nearly identical to what they claim is on Mars. In 2018, hikers in Atacama near Antofagasta found areas marked off for testing that looked just like the high-resolution panorama sent back by Curiosity rover. Textbook Mars is covered in ventifacts, rocks that are shaped by wind. You will find the exact same wind-scarred basalt formations in the hills surrounding Antofagasta. In the sky, how do they get the alien salmon-colored sky? It's simple. Bayer filter or a post-production color grade. If you take a photo in the Atacama during a dust storm and push the red channel by like 15%, you aren't in Chile anymore. You're in the Gale crater. In many Mars photos, people like us have spotted things that shouldn't be there, like a piece of plastic, a rounded pebble that it looks like it's smoothed by liquid water, which shouldn't exist in Mars. And even a Martian squirrel that bears a striking resemblance to an Atacama rock squirrel. NASA says the rover has been driving for years. Look at the tracks. On Mars, the dust is supposedly bone dry and millions of years old. Yet rover tracks show clumping, the kind of clumping that only happens when there's moisture in the air. We're told the Martian atmosphere is 1% as thick as the Earth's. Yet we see footage of rovers' flags vibrating and dust devils spinning around the horizon. You can't have high torque winds in a near vacuum unless you're filming in high wind corridors of the Chilean desert. Every few months, the rover sends back a perfect selfie. But who's holding the camera in these photos? NASA says it's a robotic arm, but where is it? I don't see it in the pictures. Do you see it? To me, it looks like a stationary object being photographed by a third party. The reason they film in Chile is simple. You cannot leave the sphere if the sky is pressurized, integrated circuit, as we proved in the 1962 nukes. The space isn't a destination, it's a display. You can't land a car on a light bulb. To keep the space agency budgets flowing, they need new frontiers. And the Atacama is a perfect frontier because nobody goes there, and it looks exactly like a void we've been trained to fear.
We have some updates in regards to Amy Eskridge, the scientist who was working on secret sensitive technology. who's now being labeled one of the 11 missing or deceased scientists. We have some text that she sent to friends showing evidence of direct energy weapons being used against her. This may be linked to the recently admitted secret weapon bought from Russian criminal networks that could be linked to the Havana syndrome. We'll start this off with what Representative Eric Burleson had to say in relation to secret energy weapons being used against Amy Eskridge.
Obviously, there's some pattern recognition issues that are going on here with the missing scientists. And it's something that has captured the attention of the country. The president's talked about it. But you've gone a step further, and you have made the charges that some of the scientists are being taken out by space-aged weapons, potentially directed energy weapons, and that they're victims of a larger plot to silence the American people. The floor is yours. Could you just expound on your thoughts on Amy Eskridge and others?
Yeah. So I'm not certain about the others, but I know that Amy Eskridge was clearly distraught. She was telegraphing to friends and family that she was being harassed. She engaged the services of a former British intelligence officer who was investigating the harassment or the strange things that were happening to her. They were able to determine that she was the victim of what others call the Havana syndrome, which we now know is the result of a directed energy type weapon using microwave energy. This is well documented. I think 60 Minutes was one of the first to document what was going on to multiple people in our intelligence community. So I personally know several others who are still dealing with the unfortunate lasting effects of Havana syndrome. So that's not a controversial or speculative or wild idea. It's certainly been documented, well documented. But I'm not certain if the other scientists experienced Havana syndrome, but Amy, I think that they had significant evidence that she was a victim of that.
I just posted a video on this channel talking about Amy Eskridge and the technology she was working on and some of the things in regards to her story. I do want to clarify, in that video, I mentioned how there was a lot of evidence, at least in that interview, that she was drinking quite a lot, and it appeared that she was distressed in multiple areas. I think it's important that we look at the whole pictures when investigating people and topics in regards to this type of stuff.
Sokol says he briefly dated scientist Amy Eskridge for 2 months.
She ran a Institute for Exotic Science, which was basically a hub for taking technology that was developed at NASA and commercializing it.
Eskridge said she was being threatened. She later died in 2022 from what authorities ruled a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Sokol says he accepts that conclusion, but claims there were unusual incidents surrounding her.
There were definite attacks that happened, and that also contributed to a state of paranoia. Once you start looking for espionage, you start looking for hacking, you start finding it everywhere. It's kind of like if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But there was a kernel of truth to it, but not everything was true.
He adds that Eskridge's research was eventually made public after her death.
We had just made popcorn to watch a movie, and the popcorn in the bowl started to pop again. It started to crackle, and I felt like a heat sort of on one side of my face. She started to scream and vomit. There was a car parked with tinted out windows, including a tinted front window, pointing directly at the door that was in front of us. It did feel like microwave radiation, which I'm familiar with because we work with microwaves here at the lab.
But I just want to highlight one more time, just because I mentioned those things look like possibilities, that doesn't mean that anything of what she said is necessarily false. And I do find it very interesting with this new information where it really does look like potentially direct energy weapons were at least being used on her hands in this instance. And there was a lot of other convincing information I put in that video too, showing that there at least was probably something more going on, and for sure some deeper truths into what she was sharing. I just think it's important that we look at all of the information in connection to all of these stories as we try to understand what is going on. But now let's look at a clip from that long interview that was posted onto YouTube. It's actually a 3-hour interview where she discusses more in depth that she was being harassed by deep state forces.
I found out that I was being physically surveilled by the following method. My ex-boyfriend and I realized that people had been breaking into our apartment while we were gone together in the same vehicle. And so like, I'm in the apartment, I'm about to go to work, and I'm like, why don't you take out the trash and scope out the parking lot and make sure it's okay before I go to work? So he goes out there and he's like, there's this weird Lexus. It's like a silver Lexus. This is apartment. Like, why is there really nice Lexus in the parking lot? And it has tinted windows that are not street legal, like just totally dark, totally black tinted windows that are not possibly street legal. And so he comes back in and we're standing in our bedroom window looking at the Lexus and talking about it. And I say out loud, maybe we should walk over there later and take a picture of the license plate, because the Lexus is across the parking lot from us, but it's backed in, so you can't see the license plate. Within 2 minutes of me saying, hey, we should walk over there later and take a picture of the license plate, we were still standing there at the window looking at it, talking about it. And an Eastern European looking with a black beanie, dressed all in black, in his 50s or 60s, walked out of the apartment directly across from ours holding a license plate. And he opened the trunk of the Lexus and he took out some tools and he changed the license plate right in front of our faces. And then he walked back to his apartment and he put the old license plate on the front patio and went inside, left it outside. And it was literally like, come get the license plate. I have more where this came from. Come get the license plate. And then after that, the Lexus started tailing me. And every time I saw the Lexus, it had a different license plate. It would be like Alabama plates, a different state plate. It would be random dealer plates, none of which were local, just like cardboard temporary dealer plates, none of which were any local dealers. Every time I saw it, it was different plates. It would follow me to the gas station to go get beer. I would go get beer at the gas station and that Lexus follows me. And even my ex called an Uber once. He called an Uber. The Lexus pulled out from the spot across the parking lot from our apartment, drove over to our apartment and said, hey, I'm your Uber here to pick you up. The license matched in the Uber app, but they didn't have an Uber sticker or a Lyft sticker. You can't drive Uber if you don't have an Uber sticker. He pulled out of his spot. He pulled out of his spot across from our apartment where he lived and drove over there to pick him up and said, hey, I'm your Uber here to pick you up. They changed the license plate right in front of our face. Like 60 seconds after I said, hey, we should go take a picture of that license plate. And they leave it on the patio, like, take it. We have more. Just take it. Like, I'm scared. I'm tired. I'm real tired. I need to disclose soon, man. I need to publish soon because it's like escalating. It's getting more and more aggressive. Like over the past, this has been going on for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And over the past 12 months, it's been like escalating, like more aggressive, more invasive, digging through my underwear drawer and sexual threats over the past like 3 to 6 months. And now I'm like, I have to publish. I have to publish because like, it's only going to get worse until I publish. There's no way out of this. There's no way out of this situation until I publish.
Whatever you believe about Amy Eskridge's story, some people think it's 100% legit. Some people are not so convinced. It's important, I think, that we look at the truth that these type of direct energy weapons do exist. In March of this year, it was released online. The US military tests on secret weapon bought from Russian criminal network reveal Havana syndrome-like symptoms. Havana syndrome is said to have started back in 2016, so 10 years ago. Anytime we're getting information on technology that they're saying exists, new technology, you can be sure it's been around for at least 10 to 20 years. And what happened in 2016 is when US and Canadian government officials stationed in Havana, Cuba, began reporting symptoms of intense pressure or vibration in their head, headaches, dizziness, nausea, facial pain, and a lot of symptoms like this. And it looks like now these symptoms could be connected and be caused by some sort of secret direct energy weapon technology.
The Havana syndrome that is associated with the diplomats in Havana, Cuba, who started hearing some strange sound in their head, followed by short-term, long-term memory fog, severe head pain, vertigo, and more specifically shocks to the torso and extremities. And Sean Ryan just interviewed a gentleman by the name of AJ, top dog CIA agent, many accomplishments, who was attacked by this, basically this technology.
Do you remember specifically what happened to this AJ guy?
Yeah, he was hit by some type of directed energy weapon and completely contracted his body. He thought he was going to die. He suffered significant cognitive degenerative issues, hearing loss, affected his eyesight, and he's still living with the fallout from that attack to this day. And what we're about to see is an MI6 asset who talks about how the agents and assets are being mandated or coerced to take on this system. And he explains what it is, and he completely identifies it as what people might call Havana syndrome technology.
There's so much information continually coming out in regards to all of these types of topics, and so I think it's always important to go back to the Bible to find some hope, some relief, and some comfort in these times and these stories that we're reading. Like verses about God's protection. But the Lord is faithful, who will establish you and guard you from the evil one. Also, the call to expose evils in the world and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. And the great truth that God will one day, whether in this age or the age to come, will reveal all things that have been secret and have been covered up. For nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light.